sleeping on the streets despite having a job. Imagine working full-time, paying taxes and contributing to your community, yet having nowhere to sleep at night. This isn't an isolated tragedy. It's a rapidly spreading crisis unfolding right now across Nevada. The very workers who fuel the state's economic engine, from hotel staff and casino workers to nurses and delivery drivers, are being pushed to the margins by the same forces that built Nevada's glittering cities. They keep the lights of Las Vegas burning bright, yet return each night not to homes, but to cars, tents, or shelter floors. It's a paradox that has no place in a nation as wealthy as this one, and yet it's becoming the new reality. So, what's driving this collapse? How did thousands of people once part of Nevada's thriving heartbeat fall into homelessness? In today's episode, we dive deep into the state's worsening crisis. What's happening right now in Nevada? What lies ahead? And what it reveals about the broader issue of homeless in America. $10,000 and counting, the new face of homelessness in Nevada. Nevada's homelessness crisis paints a stark and sobering picture, one that can no longer be ignored. As of 2024, more than 10,000 Nevadans are living without permanent shelter, a 17% increase in just a single year. The epicenter is southern Nevada, particularly Clark County, home to Las Vegas, which alone accounts for 7,900 people, experiencing homelessness, a staggering 20% rise since 2023, and the highest level in over a decade. To put this into perspective, Nevada's homelessness rate sits at about 32 people per 10,000 residents, far above the national average of 20 per 10,000. In southern Nevada, 60.7% of the unhoused are sheltered, while 39.3% live unsheltered on sidewalks and tunnels or in makeshift encampments scattered across the desert. In northern Nevada, particularly Reno and Washoe County, between 1,500 and 2,000 people experience homelessness at any given time, though experts say the true number is higher due to limited outreach in remote areas. Among the most concerning trends is the 40% rise in homeless families with children, especially in Las Vegas. Chronically homeless individuals now make up 15% of the total population, and seniors over 55 represent about 20%, many of them grandparents raising grandchildren while struggling to survive. The racial divide is equally striking. African Americans make up 42% of southern Nevada's homeless population, but only 12% of the general population. Yet even these numbers don't tell the full story. The point-in-time count captures only a snapshot, often missing thousands who live in vehicles, couch surf, or hide from authorities. Local advocates estimate the true number of unhoused Nevadans could be between 15,000 and 20,000, is a figure that reveals the true scale of the crisis. The outlook isn't encouraging. With rents rising 5 to 7% annually, an 80,000-unit housing shortage, and $33 billion in federal HUD cuts. Nationwide, experts predict homelessness in Nevada could climb another 10-15% within 2 years, pushing the total to 11,000, 12,000 people by 2027, concentrated in Las Vegas and Reno. Even middle-income earners, people making $50,000, $60,000 a year, are now at risk. When rent consumes more than 30% of your income, one medical bill or job loss can tip you into the streets. This crisis is no longer confined to the poor or addicted, it's creeping into the middle class. Homelessness is spreading beyond city centers, reaching into suburban neighborhoods and rural towns, touching people of all ages and backgrounds. Today you might have a home, but in Nevada's fragile economy, one layoff, one illness, or one unexpected expense could send you spiraling into instability. And that's the chilling truth behind Homeless in America. It's not just their problem anymore. It's all of ours. The truth behind Nevada's homelessness beyond laziness and addiction. To understand Nevada's crisis, we must first strip away the stereotypes. Homelessness here, as with most homeless in America, is not a story of personal failure, but of systemic collapse. At its core is a massive shortage of affordable housing. Nevada lacks about 80,000 low-cost rental units, forcing thousands into financial precarity. Roughly 75% of renters earning below 80% of the area's median income spend over 30% of their income on housing, and 40% spend more than half just to keep a roof over their heads. Even steady work is no longer enough to stay housed. Rising living costs make matters worse. Las Vegas rents climb 5.7% a year, averaging $1,500 per month, far beyond reach for many earning $40,000, $50,000 annually. At the same time, essentials like food, fuel, and healthcare are rising 4 to 6% yearly, tightening the noose around already strained budgets. Job instability is another key factor. Nearly 28% of Nevada's workforce depends on tourism, an industry known for low wages, unpredictable hours, and minimal benefits. With unemployment around 6%, job loss remains the #1 trigger for homelessness in Clark County, responsible for over half of new cases. Mental health and addiction also play significant roles. Between 25–30% of Nevada's homeless population struggles with mental illness or substance abuse, yet access to treatment is limited. Many turn to drugs or alcohol, 36% by some estimates, simply to cope with the trauma and isolation of life without shelter. Racial inequity adds another painful layer. African Americans and Native Americans face systemic discrimination in both housing and employment, resulting in disproportionately high homelessness rates. In southern Nevada, Black residents make up 42% of the homeless population, despite being only 12% of the general population. The social safety net, once a lifeline, is now fraying. Pandemic-era rental aid has ended, housing vouchers are scarce, and shelters are overwhelmed, leaving nearly 40% of homeless Nevadans unsheltered. This is the harsh reality of homeless in America, a crisis not born from laziness or addiction, but from a system that prioritizes profit over people. And as Nevada's streets grow more crowded, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. If we don't fix the foundation, the collapse won't stop here, it will spread. Who is next in line to share the fate of Nevada's 10,000 homeless? Among the groups most at risk of falling through the widening cracks of Nevada's social safety net are older adults aged 55 and above. They now make up around 20% of the state's homeless population, roughly 2,000 people, many surviving solely on fixed incomes from Social Security or modest pensions averaging $1,000, $1,500 per month. But in cities like Las Vegas, where average rent hovers near $1,500, the math simply doesn't add up. With no financial cushion, thousands of seniors face an impossible choice: pay rent or buy food and medicine. About 30% of them live alone without family support, leaving them particularly vulnerable when illness, disability, or sudden hardship strikes. Their struggles shatter the outdated perception that homelessness primarily affects the young or unemployed. It forces a hard question. How did we allow our elders, the people who built this country, to end up on the streets? Low and middle-income workers, too, are trapped in a tightening vice. Affordable housing remains scarce, while rent eats up 30–50% of their paychecks. Even those juggling two jobs often fall short of covering basic expenses. The pandemic only deepened this divide. Families with children have seen homelessness rise by 40%, driven by job losses and the disappearance of rental relief programs. For many, stability is now a fragile illusion, a single paycheck or medical bill away from disaster. Racial disparities compound these challenges. African American and Native American communities face systemic obstacles in housing access, employment, and income equality. The gulf between the racial makeup of Nevada's population and that of its homeless residents reflects a deeper ongoing injustice embedded within American society, one that continues to shape the broader story of homeless in America. Mental illness and addiction add another layer to this human tragedy. Without adequate treatment programs or affordable care, countless individuals remain trapped in a cycle of homelessness, illness, and relapse. The shortage of integrated mental health and addiction services means that even those seeking help often find none of failure that costs both lives and dignity. Together, these forces create a picture that's both complex and devastating. Policies that exist only on paper cannot protect the vulnerable unless they reach real people. And so we must ask, how can public safety nets work if they continue to let the most fragile among us fall through? Nevada's safety nets and government action between hope and controversy. Nevada's ongoing struggle with homelessness exposes not only the harsh realities endured by thousands, but also the contradictions within its policies and government responses. Despite investing hundreds of millions of dollars in homelessness programs, the crisis continues to escalate, rising 20% in southern Nevada alone. The question echoes louder each year. Are these funds actually helping people, or are they being lost to temporary fixes and bureaucracy? One of the most divisive approaches has been the criminalization of homelessness. Since November 2024, Las Vegas and Clark County have enforced laws banning camping and sleeping in public spaces. Violators face fines or arrest unless they accept placement in social service programs. Officials argue it's a matter of safety and public order, but critics say it's a step backward, punishing poverty instead of solving it. Advocates warn these laws push unhoused individuals further from support networks, healthcare, and stability, deepening the very crisis they claim to address. This conflict between enforcement and empathy reflects a national tension at the heart of the homeless. In America, debate a struggle between seeing homelessness as a crime versus confronting it as a symptom of deeper systemic failure. Still, Nevada has made strides in developing long-term solutions. The Campus for Hope, a $200 million public-private initiative, aims to provide comprehensive housing and healthcare by 2027, while Nevada Hand is constructing 200 affordable housing units in Henderson, set to open in 2026. These efforts offer a glimmer of hope in a state overwhelmed by housing shortages. On the healthcare front, the state approved $100 million in 2024 to strengthen mental health and substance abuse services, a vital investment, given that nearly a third of the homeless population struggles with these issues. However, persistent shortages of trained professionals and treatment infrastructure continue to blunt the impact of these reforms. Federal policy shifts have added even more uncertainty. The Trump administration's proposed $33 billion cut to HUD threatens core programs like Housing First and rental assistance vouchers, potentially stripping $10–15 million from Nevada's annual housing budget. Such reductions risk dismantling the few safety nets that remain a devastating blow for those striving to break free from homelessness. The contrast couldn't be sharper: massive public investments on one hand, shrinking federal support on the other. Nevada's fight against homelessness now teeters at a critical crossroads. While projects like Campus for Hope inspire optimism, their scale and speed fall short of matching the pace of the crisis. Meanwhile, punitive measures risk driving unhoused individuals deeper into isolation. Frustration within the community continues to mount as encampments spread into residential neighborhoods, heightening fear and division. Service providers warn that focusing on punishment over compassion only erodes trust, making outreach and recovery even harder. It all leads to one unavoidable question. If Nevada spends so much each year, why does homelessness keep rising? Is funding being wasted on short-term fixes, shelters, cleanups, and policing instead of permanent housing and healthcare? Addressing this gap is essential if Nevada truly hopes to end, not just manage, homelessness. The breakdown of Nevada's safety nets mirrors the larger Homeless in America crisis. Across the nation, post-pandemic, rental programs have expired, housing vouchers remain scarce, and shelters are filled beyond capacity, leaving nearly 40% of the homeless unsheltered. Those most in need, seniors, families, and people with mental illness or addiction, continue to be the ones most neglected. Nevada's experience underscores a broader truth. Homelessness is not merely about housing. It's about healthcare, income inequality, racial justice, and political will. Solving it requires coordinated, compassionate, and long-term strategies that go beyond emergency responses to finally confront the root causes of homelessness in America. The cost of inaction. If society continues to look away and policymakers fail to act decisively, the future of homelessness in Nevada and across the United States will only grow darker. Experts warn that without meaningful intervention, the number of unhoused individuals in Nevada could rise by 10 to 15% within just a few years, pushing totals to nearly 12,000 by 2027. But the human toll is only part of the story. The financial burden of inaction is staggering, an estimated $1.1 billion annually by 2039 in emergency healthcare, policing, shelter maintenance, and lost productivity. This grim forecast doesn't stop at Nevada's borders. It mirrors a larger national emergency. As Homeless in America continues to expand, communities nationwide will face escalating strain on public services, hospitals, and welfare programs, with taxpayers ultimately footing the bill. If leaders continue to shy away from transformative action, failing to expand affordable housing, or scale up housing-first programs, more people will be lost to a cycle of despair that could have been broken. The window for change is closing fast. The question now isn't whether the crisis will worsen, it's whether we have the courage to stop it. So what path will Nevada choose for its future? Building real solutions for a lasting change. Suggesting thorough solutions. Addressing homelessness in Nevada demands a multifaceted, coordinated approach that goes beyond short-term fixes. First and foremost, expanding affordable long-term housing options is critical. Building more supportive apartments with rents aligned to low-income budgets can provide the stability that many homeless individuals desperately need. But housing alone isn't enough. Comprehensive support services must accompany these efforts, integrating mental health care, substance abuse, treatment, job training, and education. Without tackling the root causes, any solution risks being temporary. This calls for stronger collaboration between government agencies, social organizations, healthcare providers, and local communities, ensuring policies and programs operate cohesively rather than in silos. Economic empowerment through sustainable employment is equally vital. Access to vocational training and living wages can break the cycle of homelessness, enabling individuals to regain independence and dignity. Equally important is combating stigma. Public awareness campaigns can foster empathy and dismantle harmful stereotypes surrounding the homeless in America, encouraging inclusive support rather than exclusion. Lastly, transparent and accountable management of public funds is essential to ensure that resources reach those most in need, avoiding waste or misdirection. Are we as a society prepared to invest in such systemic change to truly turn the tide on homelessness? To combat homelessness in America, everyone has a part to play. On a personal level, having an emergency fund for at least 3 months helps cushion unexpected hardships. Knowing about housing aid programs like Nevada Hand or Operation Home can provide crucial support before things spiral. Volunteering or donating to groups like Nevada Homeless Alliance makes a tangible difference. Communities should back policies that increase affordable housing and stop penalizing homelessness, while events like Project Homeless Connect deliver direct aid. Governments must boost funding and better coordinate efforts. Homelessness in America is complex, requiring empathy and bold collaboration. How will you contribute? From awareness to compassion and action. Homelessness in America isn't someone else's tragedy. It's a growing reality that could touch anyone. A job loss, medical emergency, or rent hike can erase the fragile line between comfort and survival. We must start by raising awareness, by volunteering, supporting fair housing policies, and amplifying the stories of those living without a home. Take a moment to reflect if tomorrow you lost your job or suffered an unexpected crisis. What safety net would catch you? And more importantly, is society doing enough to protect its most vulnerable? Your voice matters. Share your thoughts, engage in discussions, and help spark change by subscribing and spreading awareness. The fight against homelessness in America begins with empathy, but it ends only when action replaces apathy. Together, we can build a future where every person has a place to belong, and homelessness becomes not a defining feature of America, but a distant memory.